And here we go. We have liftoff. Propulsion continues to be normal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Probably not. Roger, planet.
Water towers fly! Yes!
Tango down to nominal.
Fighting downside FD off. Bring in FD off. It's orange!
Orange 25! Oh my god! Oh my god!
Decollage.
What is it?
Put that in the big bag, Eagle.
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
If there's methane to be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. Keep red. Sure. We don't need any more of these.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to another NSF live stream from right here on the Space Coast of Florida. You are currently taking a live look at the moon, which is currently rising south of LC-39A, which is where SpaceX's Falcon 9 rocket is poised to launch the Starlink Group 12-17 mission, hopefully in just under 1 hour's time. Take 3. For those of you who have been with us for the past couple of nights, you know that SpaceX has tried launching this mission a couple of times, and they have had to, I'm not going to say the word, but they have had to abort both nights' attempts for reasons still unknown to us. But weather is looking absolutely fabulous tonight, and hopefully we can get Falcon 9 off the ground in just under an hour. Seeing a bunch of 5x5s in chat, y'all, we are off to a great start. My name is Max Evans. I am a spaceflight photographer here at NSF. And of course, I cannot do this alone. And joining me are two lovely individuals, starting out with Mr. Sawyer Rosenstein. Sawyer, how are you?
I am doing lovely. Thank you for calling me lovely. It is a beautiful night out tonight for this. Hopefully, we finally get to see this Falcon 9 rocket put on a show. And as always, this is not your ordinary Starlink launch.
I would argue it's not your ordinary launch day either, but we will get to that.
Where I was going.
But we will get to that in a minute. But first, I also need to introduce D Wise, who's in the field with us tonight. D, how are you?
I am doing really well. We've got this rocket on the pad once again, and any day is a good day for a launch. I'm hoping to see this thing get off the ground soon.
As we all are, hopefully. And we are, so with the last two attempts, the opening of the window has pushed about 20 minutes left, and the window opens tonight at just before 8:50 p.m. local time here on the East Coast. And as you can see, because they are currently targeting the opening of the window, we are just past sunset here at the Kennedy Space Center. So conditions tonight are absolutely beautiful, and we have a full moon rising to the east as well. So everything is looking good according to our Mark 1 eyeballs. But before we dig too deep into the stream, I want to remind everybody that if you have any questions in chat, please feel free to tag us at NASA Spaceflight, and we will get to your questions as they come. Also, before I forget, again, the one and only Kevin Michael Reed is behind the scenes, pushing the buttons and pulling the levers and making the stream magic happen for everyone to watch and hopefully enjoy. So, with that, let's start off tonight's coverage. Sawyer, we have Falcon 9 out at LC-39A. What exactly is this mission, and where's it going?
Sure. So this mission is the Starlink 12-17 mission. So for this one, there are 21 Starlink V2 mini satellites aboard, 8 of which are the regular V2 minis, and 13 of which include the direct-to-cell option, which will allow for internet access from space to cell phones across the globe. As I've been mentioning the last couple of nights, T-Mobile already kicking off their beta program. I've seen some people actually using it, and it is pretty darn cool. This one will be going into a southeasterly launch trajectory, so this one will be inclined about, I believe it's 41 degrees towards the southeast. So anywhere along the southeastern parts of Florida, you are in for quite a view, and you can see there, that is where all of those recoveries will happen, which I'm sure we'll talk about momentarily. And excuse me, I'm at 43, not 41 degrees.
Indeed. Yep, just heading just north of the Bahamas, and if the weather is anything like it is here at the Cape, if you are south of Cape Canaveral or Cocoa Beach, you should have a fabulous look tonight, even all the way down to Fort Lauderdale. Or even the Miami area. But that's not to say if you are north of the launch complex, you're going to have a bad view. It's just not going to be the same because with where Falcon 9 is going tonight, it is going to be flying away from you if you are north of the launch complex. But also because it will be a night launch, the bright exhaust will contrast very brightly against a hopefully very black sky and not a very cloudy sky wherever you are watching from, which means visibility is very far. You can see this launch from very far away, even on the west coast of Florida, including the Tampa Bay and Clearwater areas. The booster flying tonight is B1083, and this will be its 10th flight, which, as we've mentioned before, this will be the 19th booster to reach the 10 flight milestone, which is absolutely incredible. If you rewind even 2, 3, 4 years ago, even a booster flying 10 times seemed like a lot, and they're pushing the ragged edge. But they have multiple boosters well into the 20 flight barrier as well now. So it is no slouch, and B1083 will hopefully be going on a ride soon enough. But at about 8.5 minutes into flight, after stage separation, it will be hopefully meeting the drone ship, a Shortfall of Gravitas, stationed just north of the Bahamas, around 600 kilometers downrange. And just a bit farther downrange than that is the fairing recovery ship Doug, aiming to recover the fairings out of the Atlantic Ocean following their re-entry back into the Earth's atmosphere. And of course, today is the International Day of Human Spaceflight. And this feels significant because not only is it rare to have a Starlink mission flying from LC-39A, it is also the anniversary of two very, very important space launches in spaceflight history. And the first being literally the first ever crewed launch into low Earth orbit, and that was the Soviet cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin launching on April 12th, 1961. We have been flying to space for a very long time, y'all. And Sawyer, I'm sure you are very familiar with what else has flown from this pad on this day in 1981. What was that one?
Yes, that was the Space Shuttle Columbia with the old white painted external tank right from this launch pad, that exact same fixed service structure on the left side of your screen, albeit now with a lot more fancy paint and attachments for Falcon 9, took off with John Young and Bob Crippen on a 2-day flight of the Space Shuttle, the Space Transportation System, its first flight of 135.
135. That is... Y'all, we have come a very long way. I think it's safe to say we have come a very long way since the first ever human being has gone into lower Earth orbit in the early 60s. But we can get to that in a minute. But before I get too far ahead of myself, I want to actually throw to D in the field for a quick weather check-in. D, how is the weather looking for tonight's launch?
The weather tonight is actually looking really good. As you can see on the screen, it is an incredibly clear night. And so the 45th Weather Squadron, which of course looks at all these potential risks to a launch vehicle, has the primary concerns listed as none and the probability of violation at less than 5%, which is pretty much as good as it gets weather-wise. So it is absolutely gorgeous. We've got a light breeze here, absolutely nothing that Falcon 9 can't handle. And I think that we are in for a stunning, stunning launch tonight.
Fingers crossed that we can get Falcon 9 off the ground because, yes, it is absolutely gorgeous here, even though I am a little bit chilly with that breeze. And when I say chilly, it is 68 degrees Fahrenheit here at the Kennedy Space Center. So make fun all you want, but I am still quite chilly. It's the wind, I'm telling you. All right, let's go through some support really quick. And we've actually had a decent amount come in even before we went live. So I'm going to try and speed run this. Kip Schinabarger becoming a pad rat member. Kip, thank you very much. A Mr. Tom M coming in, upgrading to a pad rat membership. Thank you very much, Tom. Reshan, I'm not even going to try pronouncing your last name, forgive me. But Reshan also becoming a pad rat member, and also so is M74 Max, excellent name. And also Thomas Pickle and Adrian Wright also becoming Pad Rep members. Oh, I'm sorry. Adrian Wright became a Red Team member. Forgive me. Excellent support there, y'all. Thank you very much. And just as a reminder, if you are a member of our YouTube channel, you should have, as long as you are a Capcom member and above, you will have full access to our Discord, which means you can talk with all of us here with the team at NSF about a variety of topics, and you will also be joining an exclusive club with a number of equally nerdy spaceflight enthusiasts who will talk about all things that you possibly can. So just as a quick reminder there. Todd Johnson also coming in with gifting 20 Red Team memberships. That is huge. Holy cow. Todd, thank you so much. That means a lot to all of us. And the visual, I'm going to leave it at that. The visualize also becoming a Pad Rat member. So thank you very much to all of you who have been supporting this evening. Okay, let's jump over to some questions really quickly. So Xavier Olivas, I'll just leave it at that, is asking, surely we'll have a jellyfish this evening, right? D, what do you think?
You know, I think we have pretty good odds of it. It might be the sunset might be a little bit early for like the best of the jellyfish, but especially once we get into the second stage where we see what we sometimes refer to as the moon jelly. I think we're in for a spectacular view tonight. And for those who don't know, a jellyfish is pretty much when the sun is below the horizon. So either just before sunrise or just after sunset, and the rocket launches into it. So it's dark on the ground, but you can see the exhaust illuminated by the sun. It creates this really cool glowing effect. And if you haven't seen one yet, they are always spectacular.
Absolutely. It is going to be a stunner tonight no matter what. But in the event that, for whatever reason, I'm not going to say the word, if the launch does get moved to tomorrow for whatever reason, the theme of the opening of the window shifting about 20 minutes left, but with each passing day will hold, and that would put the opening of the window around 35-40 minutes just after sunset, which is prime jellyfish territory. So not saying that we are hoping it doesn't go tonight, but in the event that it does, it could be really pretty tomorrow. But we already have a Starlink launch scheduled for tomorrow, so that would make for quite a busy evening from both launch pads. All right. Question here from Eric Sauter. 64 years ago, Yuri became the first person to orbit the Earth, and now we are watching rocket launches and landings weekly now like it's no big deal. And how far we've come in such little time. Yeah, that is, I have to really sit back at times and really reflect because things happen so quickly nowadays, and it becomes, if you follow this stuff closely, it is super easy to just get swallowed up in, and it, I don't want to say you drown, but it is super hard to keep up. But honestly, guys, spaceflight has evolved immensely since the days of Vostok and STS-1, and certainly well within the last 10 to 15 years as the private space sector has really begun to hit its stride. Things are happening so quickly again that it can be difficult to keep up. And with this evolution, it really is important for all of us to take a step back and reflect. We've had the shuttle, we've had Mercury, Gemini, Apollo, Skylab, Mir, Tiangong, the International friggin' Space Station, Dragon, Orion. Starship is coming online too, hopefully in the next few years. We're doing the thing. And that thing is launching humans and a lot of payloads beyond the atmospheric confines of our little oasis just somewhere in the solar system. And we're not going to stop. Like that, we are not going to stop. Our goals have reached too far beyond to even contemplate slowing this process. And with all the doom and gloom that can be so popular today and just so easy to get swallowed up in, I don't know about you guys, but I really am genuinely feeling strongly optimistic about our future, both here on the ground and above, because that's where we're all going. I'm not sure how you guys feel, but I tried to remain optimistic. And on that note, with today being International Day for Human Spaceflight, we have a brand new line of merch to commemorate that, and it will be online for a good while to come. So be sure to grab all of your shirts, mugs, and sweatshirts while you can. They are an incredible design. Our team in the store, in our graphics design team, have knocked it out of the friggin' park. And I'm sure a lot of us on the team as well are going to be scooping up all of these shirts and everything else while we can. This is
Yeah,
a really neat. This is a really neat design.
can you hold on
So-
that one a second, Kevin? Because
Yeah.
I love in this, we're talking about things that have happened all within the last 5 years or
Yeah.
less in this image. We have, again, the first private spacewalk. We have the cupola there, the missions to orbit the poles. We have the first flight of Orion. We have all of that in this single image right here. And of course, the future, as we have with all of our merch here, the moon, Mars, and beyond concept of it. But just think of that. All of those things there. And of course, now all the commercial visits to the ISS with both SpaceX and Axiom and things like that. All of that's just in the last 5 years.
Yes.
That's how quick things are moving in spaceflight. This really is, as all of the things say on your screen, a new era in human spaceflight. I love it.
It really is. And it's also just a new era in spaceflight in general, because, of course, we aren't just launching people up anymore. We're launching a variety of payloads, and we're seeing SpaceX launching their own Starlink satellites every 2 to 4 days on average now from both coasts, which is a remarkable cadence. Okay, another question from SFS Space Shuttle. Will Falcon Heavy launch again? Yes, it will. It will be launching again, and it is contracted for a few more missions. Sawyer, do you know when the next one is scheduled to fly? I can't remember off the top of my head.
I don't think we have an exact date for when the next Falcon Heavy specifically is supposed to fly. I know there's supposed to be a couple this year. There's the Griffin 1 mission.
Yep.
That is supposed to go towards the end of the year, which will, I believe, have the lunar lander on that. There's a couple of Space Force missions that are scheduled some point this year. I don't know if there's an exact date, but hopefully sooner than later.
Hopefully, because it is an absolute treat to see Falcon Heavy fly. It's honestly it's a bigger rarity to see Falcon Heavy fly than it is to even see Starship fly anymore, which is kind of it's so really weird to say that, considering Falcon Heavy's first flight was way back in 2018 now, and Starship has flown 8 times to this point in just the almost 2 years now since its first ever launch. So it is an absolute treat to see fly, whether it be a day or night, and hopefully we get one more soon. Okay, so we are coming up on T-minus 42 minutes, and we are not far from the first milestone to hit tonight, which is the mark at T-minus 38 minutes, where SpaceX's launch director will verify if all systems both on the vehicle and the ground are going to be go for propellant loading. Following that, Sawyer, would you mind walking us through the timeline of events up until about T-minus 20 minutes?
Sure thing. So, once we hopefully get that go for prop load, we will start seeing the propellant load in at T-minus 35 minutes. They start with both of the different propellants needed on the first stage, which is the LOX, the Loxygen, the liquid oxygen, as well as the RP-1, the rocket propellant 1, the refined form of kerosene. Those two will load pretty much till the end of the count. Meanwhile, on the second stage, they will start with just the RP-1, which is a little bit warmer than the LOX, and that will continue all the way down until the T-minus 20 minute, 20 second vent, the best vent, and that will be the LOX chill down. So once the RP1 load is done, they'll chill down the lines, and then hopefully at T-minus 16 minutes, they will actually start loading that second stage with liquid oxygen. Sorry, I went about 6 minutes past your 20 minute, or 4 minutes past your 20 minute mark.
Yeah, how dare you? It's okay. And we have a lot of good views tonight, because they are launching from LC-39A, which is in much easier reach of all of our cameras here at the press site, and all those cameras that we have set up. And D has actually quite a wide variety of cameras set up tonight. D, what exactly are you rocking tonight, and what focal lengths?
Yeah, so I have 4 streaming cameras set up for tonight. So first of all, I've got a camera out in the field that is at 50 millimeters. So that's a really wide view. You can see the turn basin in the foreground, and you'll be able to see the rocket lift off there. That's actually quite a distance from me right now. And then I have 3 other cameras on the tracker. I have one that is a little bit more zoomed in at I believe it is 400 millimeter equivalent. I have another that's at 800 millimeter equivalent, and I have a telescope that is a really tight shot where you can't actually see the entire rocket. So for those who aren't familiar with focal lengths, those millimeters, basically the more millimeters, the more zoomed in the image is. So those last three views are all on a robotic tracker. So during flight, we should have all of those following, be able to see the trail as well as some nice detail up close as the rocket lifts off.
Detail? No, nothing. Oh, come on! Even had a groan from Sawyer. Yikes. Well,
that.
But that being said, a couple of those cameras there should come in real handy in just a few minutes. If SpaceX does verify that they are go for prop load and that process beginning in just over 3 minutes, we should begin to see frost build up on the first stage propellant tanks, both for the LOX and for the RP-1. And I know for sure that your big old telescope there can give us the best visuals possible of that. So hopefully keep your eyes peeled, folks, and we should see the first signs of frost in around, I want to say, 5 or 6 minutes. So keep your fingers crossed that we get to that point, because we have not, unfortunately, in the last couple of nights. Ooh, actually a really interesting question from Astro Guy at NASA Spaceflight. Why did the early Falcon 9 look so different? So I assume you are referring to, obviously, the V1s, the V1.1s. So the V1 Falcon 9, so actually a rewind. The Falcon 9 as it is flying right now has what's called the octaweb, in that they have the first 8 engines in a circle, and then that 9th engine is in the middle of that circle, and that is just the way that SpaceX has arranged and deemed the most efficient and the most appropriate way of organizing all 9 engines of Falcon 9's first stage, hence the name Falcon 9, which is referring to the 9 engines that it has. The early Falcon 9s had all 9 Merlins arranged in a 3x3 grid. It was a square, which was a rather interesting look, but that was also pre-Falcon 9 reuse. They didn't have exactly self-propelled and self-landing reuse in mind at that time, at least with that design. Sawyer, when exactly? I can't remember. Was it Block 4 that they first nailed landing at LZ1?
Once they got to the Block 4s, yeah, if you look at the old ones, they were a lot stubbier. They were much shorter,
Yes.
a little bit fatter, so to speak, and they had that tic-tac-toe or knots and crosses or X's and O's, whatever you want to call it, pattern at the bottom, where it looked like that game. And then they started to make it a little bit taller, and that's when they added the landing legs for the first test ones. Then you had the Block 4 full thrust. That, I believe, was the one that did the landing.
Yes.
And then they got it somehow even a little bit skinnier looking. It felt taller. And then you had the nice black accents on it. And that was when we got to the Block 5s.
It's also worth noting, so that the actual diameter of Falcon 9's tanks is at the limit of what they can achieve while still being able to transport the both first stage and the upper stage by road, and that is like, so if you've ever wondered why Falcon 9 has the proportions that it does, it has to be traveled. It travels by road, and it is basically as wide as it can be to still legally do that. If it got any taller, actually, I think Falcon 9 is currently as tall as it can get with how wide it is before the strain on its actual structure becomes too much. And also, the Block 5 also, obviously all the black accents are different, but I think one of the key parts is the grid fins that were first installed on Block 3 and Block 4 Falcon 9s were white, and they were aluminum, which obviously do not fare well against the super high temperatures that the first stage achieves with the plasma buildup on reentry. The black grid fins that are currently being used and that were first tried out on the Falcon Heavy demo flight are made of titanium, which fares against high temperatures much better. So Falcon 9 has gone through quite a bit of design evolution in the last few years, but Block 5 is basically as efficient and as well performing as Falcon 9 can currently, as Falcon 9 can currently be although Block 5 in itself has received a little bit of tweaking here and there to get mostly more performance out of the 9 Merlins on the first stage. And that is actually why, after I think it was Crew 7, which is the first ever crew mission, they were able to achieve a return to launch site landing at LZ1 and LZ2. Previously, they had to send those first stages out to drone ships in the Atlantic Ocean, and because they were able to squeeze out that much more performance out of them, they were able to bring it back to the Cape, which of course saves time and money, to bring it back to Hangar X and get them refurbed and ready for their next flight. So Falcon 9 has gone through quite a bit of iteration in its 10 plus years of service now.
And that was spicy, that Crew 7 one. It seemed like the bird
Yes.
was shorter because we hadn't seen it yet for a crew launch, and all of a sudden, you and I, Max, looked at each other like,
Yes.
Is it supposed to do that?
Yeah, you and I were right next to each other. We're right next to each other by the turn basin, right? And we saw the ignition of the center engine for the landing burn, and that was it, or the entry burn, excuse me. And then that was it. It was like probably a quarter of the length that it normally was. And you and I just paused and went, is that right? But
Yeah.
obviously that first stage didn't come down in the ocean or crash at LZ1 or LZ2. So obviously it worked out. It all worked well enough, and I'm sure if that was an issue, SpaceX has since resolved that.
Yeah, and of course, poor Kevin Michael Reed's first launch out there, and we're going, oh
Yes!
no. And he's like, what?
Yes! Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that was the week where we had Kevin and Das, and Lon was actually up here too. So we had the full crew.
Yes.
Kevin in the back channel was like, it thought it was gonna kill me. Like, that's actually, I mean, it kind of looks like that because when you look up at the point in flight where Falcon 9's first stage ignites its engines for entry burn, you have to look up from here at the press side. You have to look up a lot higher than you normally think you would, and because you have to look up so high, it looks like it's right above your head, like that. It's really, really intense and kind of off-putting if you haven't seen it before. But it's a really interesting thing. Honestly, I'm just glad it worked out fine.
Yes.
Are we seeing any frost yet, everybody? No? I can't really tell. I'm trying to look with my Mark 1 eyeballs from here at the press site, but I can't exactly say I
Look
see frost yet.
Might be starting. Can't tell if it's a camera artifact, but it looks like it's starting.
Yeah,
I
that is
definitely
yep.
see some frost starting
Yes.
on the left side of the booster, especially. You can see
under
just
the
a
X.
little bit of that vapor
Yes.
there.
And it's actually growing pretty rapidly. It may take only 35 minutes to fully fuel both first and second stages at the same time, which is remarkable. Yep, we have frost building on Falcon 9's first stage, and that is the bottom of the liquid oxygen tank for those wondering, which means at this point, SpaceX is now committed to that window opening T0, and they cannot, if they do encounter any issue for whatever reason, they are not able to detank and recycle for another attempt before the window closes tonight. So it is either 8:53 now or bust for tonight. I'm not going to say the S word.
Thank you.
Yes, but things are currently looking great, and hopefully we are approaching liftoff in just over half an hour. All right, I'm going to hit some support really quickly. Todd Johnson upgrading to a launch director membership. Holy crap. That is huge. Todd, I think we saw your name earlier, but that is a tremendous amount of support. We are greatly appreciative, man. You are the best. And Dara D. Beasley also becoming a Pad Rat member, a brand new Pad Rat member. Dara, we love to see you around, and thank you very much for coming along and hanging out with us. Yeah, frost rapidly building on the LOX tank now, so I hope we're going tonight, folks. I really do. I mean, I guess weather-wise, there's no reason why we shouldn't, unless they encounter an issue. But fingers crossed.
That's why it's never 100%, but it is greater than 95% chance of go.
Yeah, and as Dee said earlier, that is really as good as weather forecasts can get. And yeah, as you can see from, this is one of our fleet cams over at Rusty's in Port Canaveral. The weather is looking absolutely flawless, and we are not long after sunset here, so the skies are still a bit of orange and blue left in it. It is an absolutely gorgeous evening here. Although I think we are still a bit late for a jellyfish. But honestly, you never know. I'm not ruling it out. I have eaten my own words before, and hope I might do it again. Quick question from Tom M. What's your thought on when Flight 9 will fly? Oh man, it will fly when it flies. We have still not seen. Yeah. We still have not seen Ship 35 roll out to masses yet for its static fire testing, which is the next big milestone, I think, before they can even think about flight. So that would be the greatest indicator of what a potential launch window could look like in the weeks following. But we haven't seen it even roll out yet, so honestly, we're not sure. Ooh, interesting question here, Sawyer, and I'm going to throw it to you from Astro Guy. Quick question: why didn't Amazon fly on Falcon 9 even though it's cheaper? And I assume he is referring to Kuiper.
Yes, they actually will be. Of course, the original plan was pretty much fly mostly with ULA, United Launch Alliance, on the Atlas 5s that they have remaining, as well as then the Vulcan, which is their next generation rocket. There are flights scheduled on those. They also have flights now with Blue Origin and New Glenn, as well as Ariane 6 with the European Space Agency, ESA. It really came down to the fact that for the investors, because keep in mind that, yes, it's Amazon Kuiper, but it's a subsidiary of it. It's not necessarily Amazon. It's not necessarily specifically them, specifically ULA, anything like that. They said, hey, let's get the best ride that we can. And in terms of the performance that they are able to get, the number of satellites that they want to launch and need to launch, and the mass of all of them, the vehicles that they said could do the job best were Atlas, Vulcan, New Glenn, Ariane 6, and they managed to also get a couple of flights on Falcon, 3 of them specifically, because the payload capability and the size within the fairings, the volume that it can carry, is very similar actually for Falcon 9 and the current Atlas 5 551.
And this honestly, it is not the first time that Falcon 9 has flown a quote unquote competitor satellite. As you can recall, SpaceX was also contracted for 3 launches for OneWeb satellites. So this would not be the first time that they have launched competitor satellites, but it is still an interesting observation nonetheless, I have to say.
Oh, yeah.
A question here from David. Do you think the new V3 of the Raptor, that they could use them on Falcon if they need more oomph? Well, getting a Raptor on a Falcon is, I don't want to say impossible. I'm sure SpaceX could do it if they wanted to, but it is highly impractical for what Falcon 9 is designed and optimized for. The Raptor is much bigger than Falcon than the Merlins are for one thing on Falcon, but also they use much different propellants, and so you would have to pretty much re-engineer the whole vehicle for the performance of however many Raptors you want to throw on it, and how much, I guess, how much you have to strengthen your structure, because Raptor does not fire anywhere near the same as Merlin does, and I'm sure their throttle profiling is much different. Obviously, with the Merlins being an open, the Merlins run on an open combustion cycle, which is the most simplistic way of running. Well, you could argue that a pressure fed system is easier, but in terms of just efficiency and reuse for a rocket first stage, an open cycle combustion configuration is most efficient and most practical, and that is what the Merlins run on. Whereas the Raptors run on a full flow stage combustion cycle, which is incredibly complex, and there are a lot of moving parts there, more so than with Merlins or any other combustion cycle, and there's a lot more to go wrong. So it's honestly, it's highly impractical to throw a Raptor on Falcon, but if SpaceX really wanted to Frankenstein some way to do it, I'm sure they could as like a test bed or something, but I don't see that. With the upcoming V2 and V3 boosters and V3 ships coming, I don't really see that being a possibility.
Well,
Alex,
there's a couple
also...
of other issues here. The fact
Yeah,
that
go ahead.
the current Falcon 9 is crew rated. If they change any major designs to that, then it loses its crew rating, and they have to recertify that, which they really can't afford with the ISS program ending soon. And also the fact that they plan on entirely phasing out Falcon 9s in place of Starship. So why modify Falcon 9 more when you've got one that works, that runs, and when you're going to get rid of it in probably a decade or so anyway?
Yeah, and the Block 5 variant of Falcon 9, that was meant to be SpaceX's final design for Falcon, and that their design had to be locked in, and that was because under NASA's protocol, a certain design of your rocket has to fly X amount of times in order for NASA to even consider crew rating it. And that is why Block 5 has become so successful and flies as often as it does, as it is meant to be the last iteration of Falcon 9, even though they have made some tweaks here and there, of course, with under NASA's supervision. Oh, this is totally an Alex question. Also from Tom, how many Starlinks are in orbit at the moment? Sawyer, do you know? Calling Alex in the back channel. Alex, where's your spreadsheet?
Well, you can also get regular updates on the number of Starlink satellites in total on This Week in Spaceflight, which airs typically Fridays right here. I believe the one at the end of the month has all of the full numbers of all of that, but totally not stalling to give Alex some time to give the answer, but check out Twist while you're at it.
At this point, there are thousands. Like the constellations that SpaceX is building just beyond the Group 6 constellation and now Group 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, which is launching tonight, thousands. And they have a long way to go to get where they want. And even when they do get to that number that they need, they are still going to be launching satellite replacements as some either age out or have issues and deorbit themselves. But thousands. I don't know, I don't have an exact number, but many, many thousands. Superintendent asking, why can Falcon 9 not hold? And so that is really down to SpaceX utilizing super chill propellants on Falcon 9's first stage. So they super chill both their liquid oxygen and their RP1 or kerosene in the first stage. And the reason why they do that, at colder temperatures, the propellant molecules are smaller and scaled up. That means you can fit more propellant in the same size fuel tanks. But the catch there is, as the temperature in that propellant rises, the propellant expands, and you need more space to fit that same amount of propellant. So Falcon 9 cannot hold once they have begun prop load. They have to either immediately offload or start off gassing to make space for the propellant as it warms up. Sawyer, anything more to add there?
No, I mean, I think you got the gist of it. It's super cold, and it's not like Atlas V where they've got the slightly warmer propellants.
Yep.
And also just the amount that it has. I mean, Starship is so big that it can be that cold, and you don't have to worry about losing that much or dealing with issues with the stainless steel. So
yes.
Starship can, Atlas, all of those can. Falcon 9, with how cool those propellants are to get the most out of the vehicle, it is launch or not.
Right, and also the RP1, so Atlas V, the core stage of Atlas V and the Falcon 9 use the same propellant, RP1, but it is either room temperature or environmental temperature, wherever Atlas is at the pad, as opposed to being super chilled. And the LOX that the Atlas V uses as well is not as cold as SpaceX gets it for Falcon 9. I mean, the LOX, I can't remember the temperatures in Celsius, but the LOX used on Falcon 9 is chilled to a point where it's borderline solid oxygen. Like, that's how cold SpaceX has gotten it. It's about negative 200 degrees Celsius. And they did that to fit a certain amount of propellant in the first stage tanks to give that first stage enough performance for what SpaceX needs to do to launch and bring it back, either on a drone ship or at LZ-1 or LZ-2. Okay, I think quickly, before we get too far ahead of ourselves and before the T-minus 20-minute event comes in, I think we should point out that tonight's launch will be the 44th of the year and the 6th of the month of April already. This will also be Falcon 9's 106th launch since the last, I guess you could say, failure, and its 458th total orbital flight. Also, SpaceX's 107th from LC-39A, which is pretty remarkable considering this pad came back online in, I think, 2017, I think it was? 2017? And this is also going to be the fourth landing on a shortfall of Gravitas out of 105 attempts. And actually, she blows. Sawyer, what are we looking at right now from the Transporter Director?
Yes, the T-minus 20-minute event, aka the best event. It's not really event per se, so that indicates typically that the RP1 load is complete on the second stage. Now, as we were just talking about how cold that liquid oxygen is, it's a heck of a lot colder than the RP1. So to be prepared for that negative 200 degrees Celsius temperatures, they start chilling down the lines and cooling them so that you don't thermally shock them by instantly running super cold things through it. So you'll see this for about 4 more minutes as they continue to chill down, and once they're at the acceptable temperature, which is about T plus 16 or T minus 16 minutes, excuse me, that is when they will start loading the liquid oxygen on stage 2. Meanwhile, the first stage continues both the load of the LOX and RP1.
Indeed. And for those of you who might just be joining us, welcome back to Florida Space Coast and LC-39A, where Falcon 9 is getting ready to launch the Starlink 12-17 mission in just under 20 minutes from now. This is SpaceX's third attempt to get this mission off of the ground. The last 2 nights they had a go at it, but they had to abort at the very end of each launch window for reasons that still remain unclear to us. But they are now committed to launching at 8:53 p.m. here on the East Coast. So fingers crossed we get to that point, and as we can see from this big vent coming from the transporter erector, they are on track. Ooh, Sawyer, this is definitely a question for you or Alex. How many crew missions have there been in total ever?
Oh my gosh! Wow,
That's a big number. We can at least say like 135 for shuttle.
Uh-huh.
And there have been, how many for Dragon? Is it 14 or 15?
My understanding is it's just under 400 was the last count that I saw. If you count the most recent Soyuz launch with Johnny Kim, the do-it-all military member, doctor, astronaut, which is unbelievable.
Yes.
And of course, that number can be a little bit murky depending on how you count the commercial launches and certain launches like Virgin Galactic. The definition of space is different depending on which country you're in. So that kind of muddies the water a little bit. But my understanding is just under 400 crew launches since the first one, which was on this day, April 12th. 1961, and of those 135 space shuttle missions, as you mentioned, the first one took off also on this day, April 12th, 1981. So that is 398-ish space flights, depending on your definition, in 64 years. That is still a crazy number.
Absolutely. And just as a quick reminder, we have a brand new line of merch in our shop. A new era in human spaceflight. We have it on t-shirts, we have it on sweatshirts, we have it on mugs and other stuff as well. It's a really cool design. Again, shout out to our shop team who are coming up with the best designs possible for everyone to enjoy. And honestly, this might be one of my favorite personal designs to this point. I mean, between incorporating Dragon and Orion and the space station on there, between the Earth and Mars as a symbol from where we have been and where we're going at some point in the future. Guys, there has really never been a better time to be a spaceflight enthusiast than right now. And I mean that genuinely. I know it sounds very cliche to say, but I genuinely believe that. So grab these while you can. I'm not quite sure how long they'll last, but I can't guarantee it'll last long. So get it while you can. Gonna run through some support here really quickly. LaserTech02 gifting 5 Red Team memberships. LaserTech, you are the best. If you just received a Red Team membership gifted, please say thank you to LaserTech. That's so generous. Thank you so much. And also, a $20 super chat here from Ethereal Swordsman, a name that we see pretty often here in chat. So here's a fun one. What's the best looking launch pad? Foreign pads count because the H3 and Electron exist. I'll accept any answer except 4 East. That old TE is bad. I miss LC-17 myself, and I'll never forget the Moon Express. Wow, lots to unpack there. Quite the spicy question. I guess we can go around the horn on this one. D? What's your favorite launch pad?
You know, I got a new favorite launch pad, especially visually, quite recently.
I wonder what that was.
Huh, no idea. Maybe it's in Norway area?
That's a good guess, yes.
I mean, that's a fair point because it genuinely is, with the mountains and the snow, it is one of the most visually spectacular launch pads to currently exist in the world. And I would argue mean, I'm also quite biased as I've been there. I've been fortunate enough to go out to New Zealand, to the Mahia Peninsula with Rocket Lab, and I have to say, Mahia is absolutely freaking gorgeous, and so is just the country of New Zealand in general is absolutely spectacular. Jack and I both went out there together, and we were just awestruck. Yeah, I'd say Mahia is my favorite and the best looking, but there are a lot of contenders, and that the pads in question are growing as they're become as I can't word, excuse me, but as more spaceports begin to are being built all across the world, there might be more competitors in that front. What about you, Sawyer?
I'm going with an underrated one. I'm going with 37 at the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station.
Really?
Home of the Delta IV Heavy. Because,
Well, it was.
yes, the former home of. But, what am I, Adrian? Anyway, yeah.
Oh, no.
Part of the reason why I say that is because if you go up to that pad, yes, you have the giant, basically building that would move out of the way to then reveal the rocket, but there are gorgeous reflection ponds all around it. There's flowers around it. There's a gator that is known to live in that pond at 37. And just to get the reflection shots from that and to see the nature and the wildlife surrounded by the rocketry there is one of the most gorgeous things I've seen. And I've been in that pad a couple times, and that is still by far my favorite view.
It's I was surprised at first because there is a lot to take in visually at that pad, but there is nothing quite like seeing a Delta IV Heavy lumber its way upwards from that launch pad. And we actually just passed the 1-year anniversary of the last ever Delta IV Heavy to fly from there. But hopefully that pad will be up and running again in the next few years, as it will be a new home of Starship as SpaceX begins to expand Starship operations here in Florida. The first launch of which, hopefully being by the end of 2025. And there is actually, should we tease the flyover, Sawyer? Should we tease the flyover?
Should.
Well, myself, Dee, and Julia hopped on a helicopter yesterday, and we took a rather long flight up and down Florida Space Coast, getting a look at all the different launch pads and other spaceflight facilities here that make up the world's greatest spaceport. I'm not biased at all, I promise. And on the way upwards, and I guess back toward port, I guess, we were able to spot the brand new Pad B styled orbital launch mount that is going to be in place at the Starship facility at Launch Complex 39A. And I have to say, since the last time we saw it in January or February, they have made a lot of progress on it. It looks like a proper piece of launch infrastructure now. It is remarkable. And that, I think, re-sparked hope that we might actually see Starship fly from this very launch pad that you are seeing right now on screen by the end of 2025. Whether or not we actually will, we'll find out, but we will talk more about it in in our upcoming flyover video next week. So stay tuned. Quick question from here from John Cook. Is someone attempting a rocket passing in front of the moon photo tonight? That would be epic. I'm sure somebody is. I mean, the moon just came up less than an hour ago, so conditions are ideal for that photo. But unfortunately, Dee and unfortunately, that was such a pessimistic way of putting it. But Dee and I are here at the KSC press site, and based on the flight path that Falcon 9 is taking tonight, it does not exactly line up with where you need to be to get that shot. But I'm sure, based on the conditions at hand, that there are people out there going to go for it. So if you can, I would highly recommend it. I would highly recommend you at least try. So fingers crossed.
By the way, for those wondering which way this one in particular will be going, with these 21 Starlink V2 mini satellites, including the 13 direct to cell, this one will be going towards the southeast, a little bit north of the Bahamas. You can see there on the screen that secondary blue and red mark off to the bottom right. That is where we expect the first stage booster and the fairing halves to land/splash down respectively. So that is where to be. So keep an eye out if you're anywhere on Florida's East Coast, especially to the south. So West Palm Beach, Fort Lauderdale, Miami, those major areas. The second stage set to deorbit, as you saw there, off the coast of Africa. That is that red circle. If you're anywhere within that red circle, it is a good time to go outside and take a look. And if you're wondering when, well, our graphics department here, aka Ryan Caton, did a fantastic job creating this to give you an idea of how soon after launch from all the major cities you can see it. And so about 45 seconds, Orlando gets their view, a minute for Daytona Beach. Then we start working our way south. At least southwardly, you get Vero Beach and Fort Pierce. The West Coast, you get Tampa and St. Pete. Then you get to Jacksonville and Palm Beach about a minute 45 to 2 minutes into flight. Now Fort Lauderdale and Miami are starting to get their time in the glow, and then onward and outward towards the Bahamas. And if you want to know exactly the trajectory, don't forget you can follow along in the Next Spaceflight app. We now have the trajectories in there with data powered by Flight Club.
So you're stealing my thunder. I was going to say that.
Sorry. Go ahead. Wait, Max.
No,
where
no, no,
else
no,
did
no.
I get?
No, it's okay. It's okay. It also, as a quick reminder, the booster that is flying tonight is B1083, and this will be its 10th flight, and this will also be the 19th booster to reach the 10-flight milestone, which is a remarkable accomplishment, especially with where the Falcon 9 fleet has come within the last 2 to 3 years. So an incredible sight to see, and hopefully it'll be meeting the drone ship, a Shortfall of Gravitas, just north of the Bahamas, about 8.5 minutes into flight. We are now currently under the T-minus 10-minute mark here, and the time is ticking away rather quickly. That tends to be how it goes, but whenever you get past the time of prop load or even below the T-minus 20-minute event, time just seems to melt away. And I'm not sure about you guys, but the time was just gone. I'm not sure where it's gone. I'm not sure where it went, but here we are. Hopefully about to see Falcon 9 fly in just over 8.5 minutes time. So, Sawyer, what can we expect in the upcoming minutes before launch?
Sure, so we're about a minute away from engine chill, which is where they take those 9 Merlin 1D engines and kind of like we saw a little bit for the lines for the LOX load, they will prepare them for the thermal shock they will experience as those propellants run through it, and then they ignite them, hopefully. Meanwhile, beyond that, the strongback, which is that sort of metallic structure that we've been seeing up against the rocket, not the big black one on the left, that sort of white silverish one that you see there on the right side of the rocket. That has been providing fuel, propellants, data lines, other things to the vehicle. That will lean back about 1.8 degrees in strongback retract. Of course, it throws all the way back just before launch, don't worry. And then after that is when they will start the wrapping up for propellants, starting with stage 1 with the liquid oxygen there, and then the LOX load will complete on the second stage, and that's when we get into the final minute of the count.
Which is coming up rather quickly now, just over 7 minutes and 20 seconds left. Gonna speed run through some support here really quickly before we get prepped for launch. Daily Tab coming in, gifting 1 Red Team membership to some lucky viewer. Daily Tab, thank you very much. We greatly appreciate that. Chris Ramsey coming in with a $2 super chat. Many, many thanks. And Jason Grigg coming in and also becoming a Red Team member. We've had quite a few of those tonight, and Jason, we thank you very much for joining the club. That is greatly appreciated. Okay, I think we can hit one more question before we start getting crunched on time.
Go for it.
Matt TTK, how many launches have each of y'all seen? Oh boy. Well, I don't have an exact figure with me at the moment, but I'm around the 250 mark at this point. I mean, I was fortunate enough to move here in 2022, and I have only missed a handful of launches since then. I've been very, very lucky, and I'm very grateful to be here. So, but my count is around 250. D. Sawyer, what about you guys?
Yeah, I am somewhere around there. Honestly, I haven't kept good track, but I am in the upper 200s, nearing 300-ish, probably.
For
Sawyer?
me, it depends on the definition, because of launches that I've covered as media, I believe my number's at 70 or 71. As for total launches that I've seen, because I live about 2 hours south of the Cape, it's easily over 125, 150.
Still not a bad number, as it has to be said. You're still you are still a veteran at this point, and you have seen shuttles, so you have
Yes.
an elite membership here of the three of us tonight. All right, folks, just over 5.5 minutes until T0. As you can see, Falcon 9 is just about fully fueled with its liquid oxygen and RP1 on both stages. It is a very frosty vehicle, and in the next few minutes, we should expect to see the transporter erector open its clamp. It's clamped at the very top and begin to lean back a few degrees in preparation for liftoff. It is an absolutely gorgeous night here at the Kennedy Space Center. A full moon rising to the east, an absolutely clear sky, and a touch of a breeze out of the north with pleasant temperatures. Y'all, if you are anywhere near in the area, go outside, get ready to watch Falcon 9 go, because it is going to be an absolute stunner tonight. And at this point, we are about 4.5 minutes away. D, do we have to let you go?
Yeah, it is about that time for me to make sure everything is still set and I am ready to start tracking this rocket.
Excellent. Well, D, we will send you off and get some great tracking footage for us, okay?
All right, see you on the other side.
Excellent. Ooh, getting some pad audio,
Strong
it sounds
back
like.
recheck is
Excellent. Strong back here. So here comes the strong back retract. The clamp should be open, and we should be seeing it lean back a couple of degrees in just a few seconds.
And you can already see it starting to move a little bit. The part that was up against those fairing halves on the right side of the screen,
Yep.
starting to move back little by little.
I'm loving the pad audio. Just hearing the hissing and popping and venting. Falcon 9 is certainly alive and ready to go. And we should be hearing prop load complete on both stages in the next within the next couple of minutes. So are you ready?
I'm always ready, especially as we get into this final part of the countdown and we get the propellant loads starting to wrap up. So we'll hear the calls of stage 1 wrapping up propellant load, followed by stage 2. And of course, once that's done, we will see a vent similar to the T-minus 20-minute 20-second vent where they purge the lines.
Indeed. Gosh, I can't get over it. The weather tonight is absolutely perfect. I have a camera staged out at the turn basin, which is where the Pegasus barge was just recently docked at, to get hopefully a streak shot, assuming that camera works. And I also have a camera stationed up here with me on top of the hut at the KSC press site to get some still photographs as it gets off the pad initially. So, y'all, we are looking good. As you can see, the distance between the transporter erector and the fairings is growing by the second as it gets in position for liftoff in just under 3 minutes now. Oh, that's the moon back there. Look at that.
On the top right of your
Stage
screen, that
1
is
Top right.
load is
yeah.
complete.
There we go. Good call out there. Stage 1 prop load is complete. We should hear stage 2 in the next minute or so. Golly, I can't wait. This is going to be such a good one. The view here at the press site is remarkable. We have Falcon 9 at 39A, which is what you're looking at right now, and also Atlas 5 is still over at 41. So we have 2 launch pads lit up with rockets on them. This is awesome.
And a reminder, now's your time. If you live near Florida or towards the southeast, get outside and look up. Bring us with you on your phone and look up.
Yes, take photos, take videos, post them on social media, and feel free to tag us, and we would love to see them as well. Goodness gracious. All right, Sawyer, I'm going to ask you to take over for a minute while I get all my cameras ready. Is that cool?
That's very cool.
Excellent.
As we
2
Yeah,
max load is complete.
So we pass underneath 2 minutes. There we go. The liquid oxygen load is complete on the second stage. Falcon 9 now fully fueled for flight. So the next thing to keep an eye out for is that venting right there on the transporter erector. That's that white puff that you see there. That is purging any remaining oxygen that might still be within those lines, because you don't want any residuals with giant flames passing by. That could be a bad day. So we don't want that. Now less than 90 seconds to go. We have 2 big
gas
events
closeout.
coming up. There we go, those final gas closeouts. At 1 minute, Falcon 9 will enter startup. That's when the onboard computers will take control of the final countdown. And that will be followed, hopefully, 15 seconds later by the launch director giving the go for the final launch. So we'll listen out for those events, because right now, Falcon 9 should be entering startup. So the tanks will pressurize to flight levels, and the computer will have the rest of the countdown.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
That's what we want to hear. Of course, the next thing we want to hear is that go for launch. Just 64 years after the first human spaceflight. Ready for another launch here.
This one feels special. Go for launch. That's what we want to hear. T-minus 30 seconds.
That's what we heard 44 years ago to the day for STS-1, and now here we are with Falcon 9.
From the very same launch pad, mind you.
Yes.
T-minus 20 seconds. We will go quiet after liftoff, folks, as the audio, as the mics here at the press site will pick up the audio, and we will let you all enjoy. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we have liftoff. Go Falcon, go Starlink. Stay tuned for the audio as it is incoming. T plus 1 minute here into the count. If you can hear me over at the crackle here at the press site, Falcon 9 is well into flight now. Should be approaching max Q in the next few seconds. Holy crap, that is so pretty. Into the cons.
And that should be max Q right about now. Maximum aerodynamic pressure pushing down on Falcon 9.
That rumble still prevalent here at the press site from 9 Merlin 1Ds at full thrust. Oh, it's going right over the moon. MVAC chill has begun in preparation for stage separation and ignition for the vacuum-optimized Merlin. And as Falcon 9 climbs into the upper atmosphere, we are beginning to see the exhaust from all 9 Merlins begin to expand as the atmospheric and ambient pressure around all 9 engines begins to rapidly decrease as it increases altitude. Oh, I wish you guys...
Wise and need pizza there.
Yes. I wish you guys could see this with your own eyes. It's going right over the moon right now. That is so pretty. Exhaust also becoming much more vibrant with color. Wow.
Coming up real quick on 3 events in rapid succession, starting with that. Miko.
And there we go. Miko. Stand by for stage step and MVAC ignition.
I see 2 dots. That looks like stage step.
And we have ignition of the upper stage.
Stage separation.
Seeing here with my eyes.
Look at that with the Earth on the right side.
Back ignition.
The lights of Florida, the sunset.
Twilight launches are the best, and that is not that is not arguable. Twilight launches are absolutely the best. Tracking footage here from DYs. As you can see, there is a little bit of glow to the MVAC exhaust as it continues to climb. Oh, wow!
That was fairing separation caught from the ground right there.
Fairing separation confirmed.
There's the call out.
Look at the color of that. A little bit of that extra jellyfish tonight. Again, that's that expansion of the plume being hit by the just setting or just rising sun, in this case setting, and look at what that does. It looks like the top of a jellyfish, and this, folks, is why we call it a jellyfish.
If you've ever wondered. This tracking footage is just butter. D is killing the track. Wow. Falcon 9's first stage should be continuing in its flight and should be approaching apogee at any moment before it begins to decrease in altitude in preparation for atmospheric entry burn with 3 Merlins coming up in just a couple of minutes now. Yeah, Alex pointing out the back channel, we were really close to a jellyfish window. If it had launched just 20-25 minutes sooner, we probably would have seen it. But alas, I will take this a night launch from Pad A at any day of the week. I don't know about
Yeah,
you,
that-
Sawyer, but that was beautiful.
Yeah, that's more like a lunar jelly because it is a full moon tonight, the pink moon
Yes.
as well. And based off
And
of the data we saw, the first stage hitting apogee, the highest point in its trajectory, it is now on its way down to land on the drone ship.
RCS thrusters working there to orient Falcon 9 to orient itself in the manner that is most appropriate for atmospheric entry, with all 9 Merlins taking the brunt of atmospheric entry. Oh, did they improve the camera quality in that, or is that just the Atlantic being lit by the moon? You
I'm
see
pretty sure
that,
that's just the moonlight.
dude? Wow.
Oh, yes, and again, downrange, it will be. We should get a spectacular view then, hopefully, from a shortfall of Gravitas, the drone ship that will catch not catch, that the booster will land on. I have to specify. Now that Starship exists, I have to be more specific with my wording.
It's true. It's very true. But hopefully we won't have to get to a point where we catch Falcon 9s. Same with hot staging. The day of Falcon 9 hot stages is going to be a really bad day.
Yeah.
I wish you guys could see this from the perspective at the press site. The stage 2 is going right by the moon. Just to the right of it. It's gorgeous. Goodness gracious. Velocity on Falcon 9 beginning to increase. Rapidly descending now as well. Approaching atmospheric entry burn. They will begin with the center Merlin, followed by 2 of the outer ones, and the plume shape will reflect when which engines will fire. And here we go.
Stage
Oh,
1 FTS has
I can see it. I can see it from here, over the trees.
There you go. With that line, you can see 3 engines firing up on Falcon 9, exactly as we expect. There it goes. Look at that, over one of the buildings.
And shut down with our eyes. The feed's a bit behind.
Yes, that was stage 2. Stage 1,
Stage
about to
1
cut off
entry
on
burn
the
shutdown.
slightly
Down to one
delayed
engine.
light from your eyes.
Shut down. At this point, we might begin to see some plasma buildup on the grid fins. That is normal.
Also, thank you, Alex. Now I have the song Dancing in the
Stage
Moonlight
2
stuck in my head,
FTS
except
has
Landing
saved.
in the Moonlight.
Oh, stop it, Sawyer. Stop it.
Blame Alex. Anyway. Great shots
Board
of the
deck-
moon as we wait
deck-
for that startup.
Landing burn. Oh, there we go. Some plasma building up on that right-hand grid fin. Very subtle, but you can just see it. And the velocity now beginning to shed as Falcon 9 is now into the deeper parts and thicker parts of Earth's atmosphere, encountering air resistance. I think I can see the drone ship light down there. You see that?
Definitely can. That is the drone ship.
We might
Right
also get
now.
audio because it is a Shortfall Gravitas, and that has had a mic on it before. So we might get audio if we're lucky. Stage 2 looks good. Approaching landing burn at any second. Gosh, this is tense. Every time.
Always.
Every time.
Stage 1 landing burn.
There we go.
Stage 2.
Rapidly
terminal
shedding
guidance.
velocity. Approaching the deck of a Shortfall Gravitas. There we go on the right-hand side.
Stage 1 landing leg deploy.
And
Stage
that
1
looks
landing
like a
confirmed.
bullseye. Excellent. B1083 now went from B1083-10 to B1083-11. Its 10th flight completed successfully. Now just waiting on stage 2 to cut off and coast for about 50 minutes.
The 19th booster to reach 10 flights in the Falcon 9 fleet.
Amazing.
Or in the Falcon fleet, I should say, in general. That was spectacular. And of course, SpaceX cutting off their feed there as they usually do, but we have Zico and nominal
orbital insertion. Jinx. Oh, goodness gracious. Wow. Don't know about you guys. I know we say it a lot, but that really doesn't get old. And from the perspective that we are lucky enough to be able to share with you guys, we hope that you enjoyed that one, because that one felt special, especially on on today, which is the day of international human spaceflight.
I want to see the replays on that. I know they're coming.
Absolutely.
So stay
Replays
around.
are coming, and I'm sure D-Wise is working on a slow-mo replay that will be coming also in just a few minutes. Nice wide view there overlooking the Turn Basin and LC-39A. You can see in the background the Starship Tower ever so prevalent on the right-hand side of those very bright lights in the middle of your screen. In the meantime, while those replays are cooking, I'm going to hit some support really quickly. Kevin Harrington gifting one red team membership. Kevin, you are a G. Thank you very much. And Echo Deal with the $10 super chat. When the when the moon hits your plume and it makes the light bloom, that's a jelly.
I love
Somebody
when that message comes in.
that is the best. Has that been sent before? This is my first time seeing that.
It has, and I've actually sung it in the past. I won't. I don't
Copyright.
want people to tune away before the replay, so I won't sing it.
No, fair enough. Fair enough. Echo Deal, thank you very much. That was very generous and very clever. Thank you very much. Well, in the meantime, Sawyer, what is Falcon 9's upper stage doing at the moment, and will it be reigniting its upper stage again?
Yeah, so right now stage 2 is kind of just chilling out as it coasts. So it's going to work its way up into the current trajectory, and then at about T plus 54-ish minutes, they will reignite that Merlin vacuum engine. It's what's known as SES2, second engine start 2. It's a long burn, I tell you. It's approximately 2 seconds.
And that is all that's needed to end up circularizing the orbit and getting those satellites deployed in their desired orbits and altitudes.
Yeah, about 10 minutes after that is when they will deploy those satellites. Then the second stage will be passivated. In other words, get rid of all the extra gases and things. Some people have reported seeing that under certain conditions, say over the UK and Europe.
I was just going to
recently.
say, I get it now.
And then that will deorbit and burn up, and any remaining pieces, if they do make it through, will splash down off the southern part of Africa.
And actually, speaking of upper stages, this is a really good question here from, forgive me if I mispronounce this, Obaid. What do you suggest is the best way to deorbit Falcon 9's second stage for reuse? Well, SpaceX has toyed with the idea in the past of finding a way to deorbit Falcon 9's upper stage for reuse, and that they've had some crazy ideas. I think the craziest being landing the upper stage on a so-called bouncy house, as Elon had it, somewhere out in the ocean, but recovering an upper stage from any rocket, whether it be Falcon or Starship or Centaur with Atlas or Vulcan. You have to shed a lot more energy and a lot more velocity to bring that upper stage back into the atmosphere. And that, of course, takes propellant, and propellant costs weight. And that, of course, once you tie that back into the equation for launch, your rocket weighs a lot more, and you might not be able to put your payload into where it needs to go for what you were hired for. Now, you could counter that by just a very short burn and putting some kind of really big heat shield on it, which you would have to regardless. But of course, again, going back to the weight problem, heat shields cost weight, and depending on how big or thick or wide you want it to be, every single pound of weight that you add on a rocket's upper stage takes away a pound of payload that you could otherwise bring to orbit, and you sometimes do not have that margin, and also that costs money to R&D a heat shield. Yeah, it's a very big problem to solve, and the best way that we have done that to this point is what we have seen with the space shuttle in its heat shield, and what we have also seen with Dragon and every other human rated capsule, and what we are going to see with Starship in the future as well. So, Sawyer, any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much where we're at with it. SpaceX decided that it probably wasn't best to reuse the second stage on Falcon, especially once they were working on Starship and knew that entire vehicle was going to be reused. There's a couple of players getting into the full reuse game. You have ULA eventually with their smart reuse plan, at least to get the engines back.
Yep.
But there's a couple of different ones now that absolutely are trying to get that second stage back, the most popular being Starship.
Oh, and also don't forget Jarvis with New Glenn and Blue Origin.
Yep.
Even though-
I believe,
Yep, go ahead.
I'm trying to think if there was a what was it, Nova? What's the other launch vehicle that's working on that reusable second stage too? Also at the Cape.
Maybe.
I mean that doesn't narrow it down much, but oh, it's gonna drive me crazy. Anyway, continue while I try and think of the name and bash my head against the desk.
Oh,
trying to
Dream
figure it
Chaser.
out.
Dream Chaser.
Oh, yeah, Dream Chaser too. Not what I was
Oh.
thinking though, because that launches aboard Atlas/Vulcan.
True. Okay, well, while you think about that, I'm going to jump on one more question from Gabriel, asking, I know everyone asked this question, but why are there more Falcon launches from Slick 40? To put it simply, Slick 40 has been designed and it has been designed by SpaceX at this point for rapid turnaround, and we have seen that before where sometimes they have turned around Falcon 9 launches under 3 days from Slick 40. There are a lot more factors at play at 39A, i.e., it is the pad that supports Falcon Heavy and most crewed missions now. So there's a lot more equipment to move and organize over there. And Slick 40 is, as it is already set up to just turn around Falcon 9 rapidly within days with minimal effort and minimal personnel time. So it's just easier to launch from Slick 40 at this point for SpaceX.
It was Nova. It was Stoke Space's Nova rocket they're working on.
Yes. I completely. I don't know why. Forgive me, Stoke, but I forgot that as well. Thank you, Sawyer.
That hurt my brain way too much.
And we should hopefully be seeing Stoke over at LC-14 in the not too distant future, because they are also working on that, which you will also see in our upcoming flyover video next week. So stay tuned. Oh, we have replays.
Time. Now watch this replay.
Now watch this replay. Gosh, that's awesome. The views for LC-39, goodness gracious, are just unmatched.
Jinx, I was about to say, the LC-39 views hit different.
They do. And so do late night Starlinks, but tonight isn't really that late, so I can't really be saying that. This view from one of our fleet cams in Port Canaveral, and you can see a light just appearing on the right-hand side of your screen. Yeah, that is so beautiful. Because Falcon 9 burns LOX and RP1 or kerosene, the byproduct of that combustion is a very, very bright exhaust plume, which in itself looks like an artificial sunrise. It is spectacular. Just launching over a cargo ship over there right in Port Canaveral.
Yeah, we mean it when we say turning night into day. It's not just a saying, it really is what it looks like.
Yes.
Even during the launch from the wide angle, you can kind of see the whole press site lit up like it is a daylight launch.
Yes, and even then, like, cameras will never do it justice with how bright it really is. Like, you have to really be careful where you look, because if you look at the exhaust itself for too long, you may receive, like, your eyes may be a little bit damaged. But so don't look if it's super bright. Don't be looking at it for too long unless you have some kind of eye protection. But it is very bright, nonetheless. TLDR.
Oops, we've been doing that too long.
A view also from one of our robots, actually about 3 feet to my left. Wow. Straight off the pad. That is spectacular.
Beautiful. Yes, this is our robotic tracker. And then
Here's a wide angle.
Yeah, you should really see the whole lighting up into daytime with this.
Yes. And this is about how it looks to the naked eye. Maybe that ball of light is a little bit big, but this is, in terms of how the foreground and everything else is lit, this is about what it looks like with your naked eye. I promise you. If you ever have the opportunity to watch a launch from here, take it. It is, especially at night or any time of day, honestly. But it is, if you ever have a chance to, please take it. It's wonderful.
And guess what?
What?
It's orange.
It is orange. It is very orange. Okay, Jack.
It's orange. Hey, Max.
Oh, we have audio. We did. Jack, we're not in New Zealand. This is the super tight Super tight track from D, I presume. Yeah, look at that.
Oh, you can see the rainbirds going first.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I love how just quick the exposure compensated for how bright the exhaust is. Goodness gracious. Audio incoming.
Sound, yeah.
Yeah, buddy. She sure was punchy tonight. That audio was incredible. I had to take one of my ears out of my headphones just to hear it with my own ears.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was awesome. This view is messing with me a little bit because it looks like it's going to fly in front of the moon, but that's just an optical illusion from how Kevin Michael Reed has the screen split right now. But we are still tracking Falcon 9 downrange during this replay. Goodness gracious. Wow. Great track, D. You had it centered the whole time. Phenomenal track.
Thank you. I'm on a different headset right now, but this was a really, really nice one to track.
How was it for you, D? Enjoyable? You like that?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely stunning. I mean, it's so bright right now with the moon. It doesn't quite feel like night, honestly.
Full moon does tend to have that effect, but nonetheless, we are not complaining. Wow.
Again, that plume expansion as it goes up, just unbelievable. Every time, again, you see it every time, and you're
Perfectly exposed to show the color and how the color changes and evolves, and also how the brightness of the exhaust itself as well just changes so quickly.
That blue
Like right
screen
there,
right before
right
cutoff.
there. It's like a flower. The Merlin flower. We should name it. We should call it something similar. I don't know. The Merlin flower has blossomed. A wider view, I presume, from the tracker.
It's a good one.
The same tracker. Oh my goodness. Wow. Yeah, this is actually very similar to how it would look with your own eyes. Yep. You can just see the body of Falcon 9 there as it begins to climb away from the ground.
Also, amazingly, the 42nd Falcon 9 launch of the year.
On track for 150.
Still unbelievable. There's a counter near the Kennedy Space Center Visitor Complex.
Yes.
That has how many launches so far this year. The fact that we're going to be at 50 in probably a couple days is mind-boggling still.
Someone in chat saying Kevin is moving to the moon. Kevin, are you going to the moon? I'm jealous if you are.
I sure hope so.
There you are.
The voice of God, Kevin Michael Reed.
The voice of God himself, Kevin Michael Reed, the one making the stream do what it does and showing you all the magic tonight. That is all courtesy of him. So, Kevin, I'm not sure if you hear enough, but thank you very much for all your time and your effort. It's greatly appreciated.
You can see that when that plume happens, that's right around when it goes transonic or supersonic, and right around when it hits max Q. So that's usually a good indicator of that.
And depending on what the atmosphere does, sometimes it can make for the conditions around the rocket at that point in flight can make for a great conditions for a shock cone as the vehicle begins to transition into supersonic speeds, which it doesn't happen for every launch because you need a lot of humid air or humid just gas in that area where Falcon 9 is going supersonic. But when the conditions are there and it's right, it is one of the most spectacular things to see.
But it's Florida, so it's inevitable that it's going to happen at least a couple times a month.
Especially this time of year as we get closer and closer into these summer months. But all that being said, honestly, it is still getting pretty warm even even though it's mid-April now. So gonna hit some support here really quickly before we begin to wrap. Benjamin Brown, through the fire and flames, we carry on with a $2 super chat. Agreed wholeheartedly. I never played Guitar Hero, but that was a very popular track to play, and one of the most difficult.
I was terrible at that song, although I still play an expert.
I was going to say, are you a Guitar Hero extraordinaire?
Not extraordinaire, but I do play on expert. Full speed.
Full speed. And I think we can hit one more question. Kevin, can we hit one more question before we wrap?
Sure, why not? We have this replay.
Excellent. And then I think
Pizza, I believe, by the way.
This is from Pizza? Phenomenal.
Yeah, this is tracked from like 4,000 plus miles away. It's absolutely amazing that we're able to do that. And yeah.
Just as you do. As you do. And even still having it after Miko. Wow. All right, one more question, and then I think we can wrap it up here. From Obaid again, why doesn't the Falcon 9 use parachutes to land instead of what it is doing now? Sawyer.
It is heavy. It has a lot of parachutes that you would need. You'd have to then repack them after each flight, or take them out, inspect them, redo it. Parachutes can rip quite easily. There's a lot of things that parachutes are good for single use or not so rapid turnaround, especially at this scale. I mean, it's not like skydiving where you could just pack it right back up in a backpack. So SpaceX went for the controlled burn landing with the landing legs. It's a lot easier to just pop the legs down, land it, and then when you're done, fold the legs up and then refurbish it. And that's all you really have to do.
Indeed. Well, on that note, folks, I'm going to start thanking people for being on with us as we begin to wrap up coverage. Sawyer, I'm going to start with you. Man, it's always a pleasure having you on commentary. And thank you very much for, suffering with us on the last couple of days for the last few scrubbed attempts. So, Sawyer, thank you very much for coming on.
There's no other people I'd rather be suffering with.
Fair enough. Manning the cameras tonight is the one and only D Wise with the incredible tracks. D, thank you for all you do, and thank you for being here.
Of course, this was a good launch, definitely worth the wait.
Absolutely, and we will be playing out with your slow-mo in just a few seconds, but I want to also thank, again, Kevin Michael Reed, who's been in the back channel, pushing the buttons and pulling the levers, making all of the stream magic happen right before all of our eyes. And lastly, I have been your host, Max Evans, here at NASA Spaceflight photographer here, and it has been an absolute pleasure to host all of you all tonight. Hopefully you enjoyed hanging out with us. That was a good one, and we hope to see you for the next one very soon. Cheers.
And here we go. We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be normal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Doubling up. Roger, with planet.
Water towers fly! Yes! Tango down to nominal.
Flight downside FTE off. Say again, FTE off. It's orange!
Oh my God! Oh my God!
Decollage.
Put that in the big bag, Eagle.
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together back to the moon and beyond.
If the methane would be